In 1818, Abraham Lincoln's mother died after drinking a glass of milk. The cow had eaten a toxic plant. Nobody knew. She vomited, convulsed, and died in days. This happened all over the frontier. Whole towns emptied out, killed by milk. So, tell me, if a glass of milk could wipe out your family, what chance did you really have out here? This episode rips the frontier myth wide open. Forget the romance. Forget the heroes. Here, your only reason for being is to survive. Nothing more. This episode breaks down the real reasons most of us wouldn't last 24 hours on that land. My name is Sam, and this is Wild America. And we'll start with something simple. Number 7, milk sickness. You're out on the frontier. It's summer. Rain's been missing for weeks. Your cow looks fine. It gives milk like always. You drink it, feed it to your kids. Then, next morning, something feels off. Not pain, just off. It starts slow. You feel weak, heavy, like something's dragging behind your eyes. Then, the vomiting hits. Your hands start to shake. Your stomach twists up like it's trying to kill you from the inside. And sometimes, it does. They used to call it the trembles, or the slows, or just plain death depending on the day. Whole families dropped in a week. No warning, no cure, no clue what caused it. This was the early 1800s, Midwest frontier land. Back then, folks were still clearing trees and building cabins. Back then, every family on the frontier had a cow. That was your milk, your butter, your cream. You let it graze where it could, in the fields, woods, whatever was green. No fences, no feed bags, just open land and hungry mouths. And by the 1820s, folks started to suspect something ugly was slipping through the milk. Cows were getting sick. Calves dropped dead. People were dying too. Some blamed bad water, wells, springs. Others thought the cows were poisoning themselves. Everyone had a theory. Nobody had answers. Doctors didn't know what they were looking at. One in Cincinnati, Daniel Drake, said it came on sly. Just weakness at first. Then it consumed every bit of you. People panicked. They thought it was the earth leaking poison, or ghosts, or witches. Some towns emptied out overnight, like the Wabash River Valley in Indiana. Vanished. Abandoned. Kentucky even offered a bounty, $2,000, which would be around $70,000 today, for anyone who could figure it out. But no one could, and the deaths kept coming. In some places, like Dubois County, Indiana, milk sickness was the #1 killer for years. No war, no shootouts, just a glass of milk. Even Abraham Lincoln got touched by it. His mother, Nancy Hanks Lincoln, died from milk sickness in 1818. She was just 34, and Abe was 9. He helped his dad build her coffin. They didn't even have the words for what was happening. Doctors tried bleeding people, dosed them with mercury. You were sick, dying, and the cure just made it worse. And it wasn't until the mid-1800s that someone cracked it. Anna Pierce Hobbs Bixby. She was a midwife. Locals called her Dr. Anna, tough as nails. She eventually figured out the connection, but nobody listened. Not then. A woman? A midwife? What did she know? Only decades later did the medical world catch up, and by then, well, a whole lot of graves were already in the ground. But the way she discovered the root of this problem was, she noticed something simple, something nobody else clocked. Milk sickness came with the seasons. It showed up like clockwork. That was her first clue. So, one fall day in 1834, Anna packed a lunch, grabbed her rifle, called her dogs, and followed the cattle into the woods. She watched what they ate, sat with it, took notes. No one had ever done that. And out there in the brush, she crossed paths with an old Shawnee woman hiding from the government's forced removals. Anna gave her lunch, took her home, let her rest, and that moment changed everything. The woman, grateful and sharp-eyed, told Anna she knew exactly what plant was behind the sickness. Before she left, she walked Anna to a ridge and pointed to a plain-looking thing. Thin stem, round leaves, soft white flowers, small, easy to miss, but deadly. White snake root. That was the killer. It looked harmless, but it carried a toxin called trematol. And so the cow'd eat it. The toxin would pass into the milk, and you'd drink it like nothing was wrong, until it was. And so Anna started testing it. She fed it to animals. She watched the calves tremble. Same sickness, same signs. At long last, she'd found it. She immediately told her neighbors. She showed them the plant. Men rode out and ripped it up wherever they saw it. She even grew white snake root in her yard, just so folks could learn what to look for. She sent out letters to doctors, too, asked them to come see for themselves. We don't know if any ever did, but her little corner of Illinois got the message. And after 3 years, the plant was almost gone, and the death stopped. That should have been the end of it. But the word never really spread. No medical journals, no loud voices, no headlines. Just a woman with the answer in a world that didn't want to hear it. She was a woman, said one historian, so no one gave her much thought. And so, the sickness remained, for years, while the cure stood growing in her yard. But you know, that glass of milk was just the appetizer. The main course? Claws, fangs, and venom. Number 6, wildlife encounters. Now, back in the 1800s, if you wandered too far without watching your step, you might not come back. Grizzlies? Those were walking disasters. One wrong turn in the brush, and you'd hear the snap of a twig and know you were already too late. Take Jedediah Smith. Tough as they came, he got jumped by a grizzly. It tore half his face off, crushed his ribs, scalped him like a deer. And yet, somehow, he lived. Most, however, wouldn't. But we'll save the full bear stories for another time. We've got a full episode on Hugh Glass and his horrific grizzly attack, and we've also got a shorter episode too. But for now, let's talk snakes. You see, rattlers were everywhere. In the tall grass, under the rocks, coiled near your boots when you weren't looking. One bite, and you were on borrowed time. Medicine back then? As you'd imagine. Practically guesswork. Folks tied ropes above the bite, sliced open the skin, sucked out venom with their mouths. Yeah, really. Others slapped on crushed tobacco, salt, or mustard poultices. Some drank whiskey until they blacked out, thinking being drunk might help. But no. It didn't. Nothing did. Truth is, most of that didn't do much. If the venom hit fast, you were done. Kids were especially easy targets. In Texas, July 1882, a toddler named James Brannon was lying on a blanket. A rattler got him. He was dead before sundown. Another one. George Sides, just 6 years old, got bitten in 1873. Same state, same story. And those are just the names we know. The fear of it? Always there. You're out gathering wood, squatting to tie your boot, and you feel that rattle. Your heart jumps, you freeze. And sometimes that's the last sound you ever hear. But it wasn't just the fangs. There were bison, thousands of them. Majestic, sure, until they weren't. One loud bang or a whiff of something they didn't like, and boom, stampede. And when those beasts ran, they flattened everything. Tents, wagons, horses, people, gone. You could wake up with a whole camp and go to sleep with nothing but dust and bones. The frontier wasn't just survival of the fittest, it was survival of the luckiest. Because sometimes doing everything right still got you killed. So yeah, nature wanted you dead, but so did your neighbors. Yet, at least animals don't shoot you over cattle. Number 5. Social conflicts. Out in the American frontier, it wasn't just the cold or the hunger that could kill you, it was people. Bad enough to earn 2 spots in this episode. And this is just the beginning. You see, the frontier wasn't lawless in theory, it was lawless in practice. There was no sheriff to call, no courtroom to plead your case. So if you had a problem with someone, it got settled one of 2 ways, with lead or blood. Take the Johnson County War in Wyoming, April 1892. A pack of 52 hired guns and cattle barons rolled out to clean up what they called rustlers, small ranchers, homesteaders, anyone standing in their way. They weren't looking to arrest anyone. They came to execute. One of the first to fall was Nate Champion. He was holed up in his cabin when they surrounded him. He held them off for hours, wrote in his journal while the bullets flew, and when they torched the place, he ran out blazing, took several rounds before he hit the ground. And he wasn't alone. That war was a hit list in motion, every name crossed off with a bullet. Yet the same kind of hell was boiling down in Arizona. The Pleasant Valley War, Tewksbury's versus Graham's. It started over cattle, ended in a full-blown blood feud. One side hired a Basque sheep herder, but he didn't last long. He was ambushed and murdered. Then came John Tewksbury Jr. and William Jacobs. They were shot while unarmed, left in the dirt. You see, this wasn't just some wild shootout story. No, this was daily life for folks caught between family names, landlines, and gunsmoke. Arkansas, too, had its own body count. The Tut-Everett feud in Marion County back in the 1840s. Started over politics, ended in gunfire, and by 1849, Yellville turned into a war zone. Bullets flying in the street, dead on both sides. It got so ugly the militia had to march in just to cool it down. And don't forget Texas, Bell County, right after the Civil War. Early Hasley feud. John Early came back from the war full of authority and bad blood. Sam Hasley blamed him for what happened to his old man, and that grudge grew teeth. One death led to another, then another. No law stepped in, just families keeping score. So you see, you had to survive your neighbors. And some days, that was the harder part. But if you managed to survive the gunfire, try surviving the sky. Even when people weren't gunning for you, the land still was. Number 4. Environmental hazards. Do you ever feel heat so dry it cracks your lips open like old leather? That was every day on the frontier. And if the sun didn't get you, the sky might. The weather out there wasn't just bad. It was wild, violent, unforgiving. One minute you're rolling across the prairie, clear skies above. Next thing you know, the wind dies, the air thickens, then it hits. Thunderstorms came fast and hard. Hailstones big as eggs tore through tents like paper. Lightning struck so close it shook your bones, and if the grass was dry, the whole plain could light up in seconds. Fires rolled fast on that wind. Whole camps went up before folks could even shout. And then, tornadoes. God help you if you saw that funnel drop. Usually, there's no warning, just a scary silence. Then, a freight train of wind rushing and tearing through your world. Trees uprooted, cabins flattened, people gone. Not injured, gone. And let's not forget about heat. Oh boy, that prairie sun cooked everything. Wagon wheels? They'd shrink, crack, and fall apart mid-journey. And you had no spare and no blacksmith, just miles of open land. As a result, you're stranded, exposed, baking alive with no help in sight. The dust was a slow killer too, fine as flour. If it gets into your lungs, your eyes, or your skin, it would blister your lips raw. And what did folks do? Smear axle grease on them. Think about that. Axle grease, because there was nothing else. And that was just the land. And if the land didn't break you, the doctor probably would. Number 3, inadequate medical knowledge. If you caught something out on the frontier, chances were it'd kill you faster than a bullet. As we mentioned before, doctors, they barely earned the name. Most were just guessing, cutting, bleeding, dosing folks with stuff that did more harm than good. And when disease hit, it hit like a tornado. Take cholera, for instance, a waterborne killer. You'd feel fine in the morning, but by sundown, you were dead. Vomiting, diarrhea, dehydration hit hard and fast. You had no IVs back then, no clinics, just a bucket and a prayer. Towns didn't understand it was the water, so they kept drinking it. They kept dying. In 1832 and again in 1849, it swept through camps along the Missouri River. The Kiowa said half their tribe disappeared to the cramps. That's what they called it, the cramps. Typhoid and dysentery weren't much better. You see, back then, no one boiled water. No one understood bacteria. People were too busy trying to stay fed to think about germs, so they just kept getting sick. And if the disease didn't kill you, the treatment might. Ever heard of Dr. J. Marion Sims, the so-called father of American gynecology? He got there by cutting up enslaved women without anesthesia, over and over, same women, same pain, just to see what would happen. And this wasn't rare. Out here, medicine was trial and error, and you were the lab rat. It had nothing to do with healing. Even simple stuff could turn deadly. If a splinter gets infected, you had no antibiotics. Now your arm's swollen and black, and the next day you've got fever. And after that, you're dead. But yeah, we've got a whole episode on our channel on the nastiest frontier diseases and another one on all the ways folks died back then. Worth your time. But forget medicine for a second. Let's talk accidents. Number 2, accidents and injuries. Now, you didn't need a shootout to end up dead out here. Sometimes all it took was a jolt in the wrong spot, a rock under a wheel, or even a tired ox stepping sideways. Those wagons? They weren't cozy covered rides. They were four-wheeled coffins. They were big, loud, clunky things packed with everything a family owned: food, tools, bedding, hope. And they flipped easy. One tilt on uneven ground and people got thrown clear, or worse, underneath. Iron-rimmed wheels, crushed ribs, snapped legs, popped skulls. Once again, there are no hospitals out here. No surgeons, just a bottle of whiskey and someone trying not to scream. Death came slow. Sometimes it took hours, sometimes a day. You'd bleed out in the dirt while flies already made plans. And kids were hit hardest. Diaries talk about toddlers leaning too far over the edge, playing with a stick, tumbling off mid-roll. One story from 1852 still stings. A boy fell while his folks tried to stop the oxen, but they couldn't. The wagon rolled right over his chest. He was gone in an hour, choking on blood. And when wagons didn't run you down, they broke under you. Axles snapped, wheels came off, whole loads spilled into ravines. People got crushed or slammed into the rocks. Today, a broken arm gets you a cast. But back then, it got you a fever, then pus, then rot, tetanus, sepsis, gangrene. You either healed on your own, or you didn't. And rivers? Oh, rivers were worse. There were no bridges, no safety rails, no signs, just wide, fast water and a gamble. Some tried floating the wagons across, sealed them with tar and prayed. Others just drove straight in, hoping their animals could walk the bottom. Didn't matter, though. The current didn't care. Oxen lost footing, wagons tipped midstream, people disappeared beneath crates and sacks. Clothes soaked through, turned heavy, dragged folks down. Most couldn't swim. Didn't matter if you could. One line from 1851 haunts the old North Platte crossing. "We lost 2 today. Mrs. Kelly tried to hold on to the wagon, but the current took her. The baby was still tied to her chest when they found her half a mile down. They buried them together on the bank. No stone, just willows. And that's not a one-off. That's the story. Over and over. A foot slips. An ox spooks. A wheel jerks sideways. Somebody disappears. Even if you made it across, it cost you. Wet food went bad. Clothes froze stiff. Tools washed away. You didn't need to drown to die. Sometimes the river just set the timer. The Journal of Western Trails said drowning was the second most common cause of death on the trail. First was disease. Third, wagon accidents, quiet killers. And as for guns, yeah, they were everywhere. For hunting, for protection. But they were also dangerous as hell. You know what those rifles didn't have? Safety switches. Muzzle loaders misfired all the time. Drop one wrong or brush the hammer, and boom, shot yourself or your neighbor. Old emigrant journals are full of it. Men cleaning guns that suddenly go off, a kid tripping over a musket, a woman shot while packing supplies. The trigger pulled if you even looked at it wrong. Let me tell you about German. You see, one 1850 journal describes a quiet morning turned tragic. The sun was barely up. Germain had just eaten. Nothing felt off. Then he reached under the wagon seat to grab his rifle. And that's where things went wrong. The hammer got caught on some iron bracket. Bam! The gun went off. The shot hit him square in the chest. It ripped through his ribs, tore into both lungs. The journal says he rolled and hollowed, blood pouring out like someone slit a hog. He lasted maybe an hour, begging that they hold off burying him till his mama could send one last letter. That's what dying looked like out here, and it wasn't rare. Another man in 1849 just trying to pull a pistol from a wagon. It slipped, fired, and buried a lead ball in his friend's thigh. Fever took over, then infection, then death. Slow and vicious death. Now trees. Trees can also kill you without prior notice. This one time a man tried to drop a white pine near his cabin. The wind caught it. So the tree twisted mid-fall. It came down across his back like the hand of God. It crushed his spine. His kids dragged him inside. He coughed blood till he went still. His wife built his coffin with the boards he'd cut. And it wasn't just loggers. Clearing brush, hauling limbs. Hell, just standing too close when someone else was chopping, you could catch an axe head to the ribs or get flattened by a deadfall. Some folks didn't even see it coming. And once it hit, same old story. No morphine, no ambulance, just whiskey for the pain, water if you were lucky. And waiting. A lot of waiting. And aside from trees, even your livestock could be the end of you. Horses, oxen, cattle. Yeah, they were lifelines, but they were also walking danger. We talked a bit about stampedes before, but even outside a stampede, animals didn't care about your plans. For instance, a startled horse could kick a man's jaw clean off. Oxen could trample kids underfoot. Cattle could gore you during branding. The National Park Service has the numbers to back it. Animal-related injuries were a major cause of death out on the trails. And hey, if everything we've covered so far didn't kill you, someone else might. Number 1, more violence. Now, we're not talking about movie violence here. The American frontier in real life was dirty, fast, and personal. Every step on the frontier felt like a dare. You didn't know who was going to gut you for a few coins, shoot you over a card game, or drag you into something worse. In the Midwest, for example, there was a crew called the Banditti of the Prairie. Sounds cute, right? Well, it wasn't. These guys ran through Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio like a plague. They broke into homes, stole horses, murdered travelers, counterfeited money, and vanished into the woods before anyone could stop them. And that was just Tuesday on the frontier. As for gunfights, they weren't some honorable high-noon duels like you'd see in a spaghetti western movie. Most were messy, sudden, and stupid, like two drunk men arguing over a woman or a crooked card, and then, boom, one's dead, the other's bleeding, and everybody else pretends they didn't see it. You think you'd walk away from that? You wouldn't even have time to stand up. And hey, since we're talking spaghetti westerns and gunfights, we're launching a new channel soon called Western Files. It's all about classic Western movies, legends, and the stories behind them. So, if that's your thing, keep an eye out. First episodes are coming soon. But in the meantime, if you're thinking, okay, I'll just avoid trouble, then good luck. Because sometimes the danger was the law, or at least looked like it. You see, race was a fuse waiting to blow. White folks didn't want equality in the North or the South. They wrote discrimination into the books and backed it with fists, bullets, or worse. Out west, during the gold rush, Chinese immigrants were treated like rats, beaten, robbed, silenced. Their testimony didn't even count in court. So, if you weren't white and someone killed you, too bad. No one cared. And if they did, the law wasn't on your side. But the worst part? Sometimes the devil wasn't in a gang or wearing a badge. Sometimes he was just two men on horseback, smiling as they rode up. We're talking about the Harps here, big and little, Makaja and Wiley. Kin, not brothers, but killers all the same. They were monsters, America's first known serial killers. From 1797 to 1799, they swept through Kentucky, Tennessee, and Illinois like wolves. They didn't rob for money. They didn't kill for revenge. They just liked it. They'd disembowel folks and throw the bodies in rivers, left them stuffed with stones so they'd sink. One man, name was Johnson, was found like that. Opened up, emptied out, and left to rot in the dark. That became their calling card. And they didn't stop at strangers. They had 3 women with them, wives, captives, no one knew for sure, but they were beaten, abused, dragged across the frontier like baggage. One, Susan Wood, managed to escape. She talked. She told the law what she'd seen. And that's how it ended. But not before the Harps left a trail soaked in blood. Men, women, children, didn't matter. If you crossed their path, you probably didn't see the next morning. So yeah, 24 hours in the American frontier? You wouldn't make it. You weren't safe in town. You weren't safe on the road. You weren't even safe in your bed. Violence was the air. And the worst part? Most of the time it came without warning, just like that.